final third. I got my great friend Nabayee Tesfu here, second guest, second show. Super excited for that. Before we get started, I just want to again kind of reiterate, kind of let you guys know what this podcast is about. The final third is a forum for all things soccer, coaching, business related, just anything lifestyle soccer we want to cover, from cool stories to training techniques to just ideas and philosophies of what can make the soccer community better here. We love to focus on people from or involved in the area, Montgomery County, Maryland, but that doesn't limit us. We also love having topics and guests nationally and internationally. So with that being said, Nabayee.
Hey, it's great to be here. Thank you for having me.
What's good, bro?
Chilling, man. You already know what it is.
Long time, man.
I know.
Last time we were really chilling was Frostburg State on the couch, probably like on Bowery somewhere.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
That was a long time ago.
Yeah, dude, yeah.
Doesn't feel like it though.
Time flies.
Yeah,
time flew for me at Frostburg.
Yeah, I bet because you were there before I was.
Yeah.
I have a whole time out of there after you guys left.
Yeah, man. So it's really good to have you on the show, man. I'm really excited. First of all, just kind of introduce yourself. You know where you're from, your history, where you were born, even because I know I love the international feel, all that stuff. Where you played and things like that.
All right. Like you already said, I'm Nabayee. My parents are from Eritrea. I was born here in Washington, D.C. I actually ended up moving to Bethesda after living in Silver Spring for some time. So most of the time when I played soccer, it was through Bethesda.
Yeah.
Teams that I played Real Maryland, Walter Johnson High School, Frostburg State. I never played for the greatest club teams. In all honesty, that wasn't really something that my parents could afford.
Yeah.
So that's why I played, as hard as I could when I played for school. So for Walter Johnson and Frostburg, those were two big playing days that I really look back on fondly.
So just before you go further, it's funny you say you're from Eritrea.
Yeah, Eritrea.
That was funny. So yesterday at my soccer game, the boys played after us.
Right.
And there was one kid on the team, and like right before the game, apparently there was some altercation between him and the coach, like one of the assistants, and like he got kicked off, wasn't even allowed to play.
No way.
So like he's cool with me and my coaching staff too. So
right.
he comes up to us, it's like, Coach, like I just got a vent, I got to talk to him. I'm like, hey, man, what's going on? Like, why aren't you on the field? He's like, man, they're threatening to kick me off the team because I got into it with one of the coaches. I threatened to punch him or something. I was like, why do you do something so stupid? So he goes on to say that they were all like joking around, and like one of the coach kept saying he was Ethiopian, and he was like, bro, I am not Ethiopian. He kept saying, bro, it's the same thing, Eritrea, Ethiopia, Somalia, is all, and he's like, it's not the same. So he got really like angry, heated about it, and like threatened to punch the coach. Like, so I don't really know what the thing is with Eritrea,
like East Africa, that whole like corner.
So what's up with that, man?
So there's been tension and conflict between Eritrea and Ethiopia due to war, and so that those feelings have carried over to the next generation. Because I wasn't born in Eritrea, but my parents raised me as Eritreans. Culture, my religion, my ethnicity. So like. There was a lot of emphasis on that. So, my father always used to tell me, he would say, there's this word people use it's the word Habesha, which is what people use to refer to Ethiopians and Eritreans. And we'll use it within ourselves too. We'll say, are you Habesha? My father never liked that. He would always say, you're either Eritrean or Ethiopian.
One or the other.
Yeah, which, I can understand. I 100% see where that view comes from. There's a lot of pain that our families have gone through over the years on both sides.
All right.
So I definitely understand what he's going through.
Yeah,
it wouldn't trigger me as much. I can understand if somebody's definitely peckering at you and trying to get a reaction out of you. I can see that, but I get that all the time. A lot of people come to me for the first time. They'll be like, "Oh, like, are you Ethiopian?" Or they'll talk to me in Amharic, which is like their national language. Yeah, and I'll be like, "I'm sorry, I'm Eritrean," or I speak Tigrinya, which is Eritrea's language, or one of the few languages that we have. So. I never took it like that way, but I can see where he's coming from for sure.
He's mad.
It's an interesting debate. A lot of people are definitely paying attention to that.
Yeah.
They realize, people like to be separated.
One of those.
Yeah, and it's not like a personal thing. It's just, we are, every country's different. You can't say Japan is the same as China. That's not true.
Yeah.
So yeah, there's definitely a distinction there that some people just don't recognize.
That's crazy. I wanted to do more research on it to really find out why, because he was like, the history there is so bad, and I just hate it. You know what I mean? So
it's really deep. It really runs deep. Like they were in war for a long time, and that war was brutal. A lot of people died.
Oh man.
And they just made peace.
Okay.
Eritrea and Ethiopia.
That's good.
Government-wise. So they were saying they opened up phone lines that haven't been accessed. Yeah, that haven't been that have been blocked off since the 80s or the 90s, I believe. So it's been a long time.
That's good.
It's been a long time, yeah.
So speaking of soccer, Ethiopia is becoming a lot better at soccer. You know what's crazy? You know what's weird? It's like every Ethiopian that I've played, Ethiopian or Eritrea, if I made that mistake again, you know what I mean? But people from that East Africa, but usually the Ethiopians or the Eritreans are the ones that I'm most common with. They're all like super, super, super technical soccer players.
Right.
Like super technical. When it comes to the physicality and the tactical part, it's like, I don't know.
Right, we made like a little bit, yeah.
But why do you think that is? I've always wondered, like, why? And why does everybody from there like Arsenal? That's my second question. Like,
I can't say anything about Arsenal. Honestly, I can't tell you about that. Maybe it's Gideon. You know what I mean?
It's Gideon, right? I want to hit on Gideon later on.
I'm sure a lot of people look up to him. Him being at the highest level.
Yeah.
But in terms of technicality, I just think we just always played. Me growing up, I didn't play on an organized team until I was 7th grade.
Yeah.
So all that time that I'm spending up until then is basically me, playing with my friends after school, literally dropping my bag and playing between, offenses a goal.
Right.
So, a lot of times, since you didn't have a lot of numbers, now you're playing 11v11, so that stuff's not tactical. It's more of every man for themselves. So, when people would play World Cup, it'd be like every man for themselves. All of a sudden, it's you versus 5 people. How are you going to get by them? You got to dribble.
That's true.
So, that's really what gets you technically, and explains kind of, I think, why, tactically sometimes we lack. Especially, if you're not on a team with a good coach who's able to point you in the right direction early on, it's a lot harder to figure those things out for yourself.
Right.
I know for myself, I realized how much I was lacking tactically until I started playing for Walter Johnson.
Yeah.
And playing under Williams, the first time he ever yelled at me for a mistake that I didn't even realize what my mistake was, because I just didn't realize my position on the field was wrong.
Yeah. Don't know what you don't know.
Right. Yeah. So then that's when I realized I got to pick some stuff up. So I think that kind of explains tactically why we may lack a little bit sometimes. We're not always on the best teams. I think it's getting better. I think our parents are getting more loose, especially our parents, our generation. Our emphasis isn't always sports; it's always school. So my parents always want me to focus on school rather than soccer. So the feeling is, if I put him on a good team, if he's constantly playing soccer, when's he going to have time for school?
That's true. I think that's overall African
mentality,
mindset.
Right? Which you can't blame them. They came from nothing.
That's true.
Education is what got them to where they were. So that's
why we're here.
Right? You know what I mean?
Cool.
That's exactly why we're here. So I think that's why. Technically, 1v1 speed, we're great at that. And then, there's the physicality, which I think that's just, where we come from, I think.
Yeah.
That's just the way we're built.
The way we are.
I think it just takes us a little bit more time to physically get to that next level in comparison to other kids and other people who maybe develop their physicalities early.
Yeah.
And they develop their muscle mass and their strength.
West Africans.
Right.
Like West Africans, that's why you find them, they're somewhat, and you guys can correct me if I'm wrong, I think West Africans rely less on their technical ability and tactical ability because they have so much of a physical presence.
I agree.
Whereas, people from East Africa rely solely on their technicality because that physical part isn't as developed, you know what I mean? And even so, like, I think the regions of soccer, you can see why they're good at what they are.
For sure.
Because of the culture of how they're, physically built. a lot, and also with the development. So speaking of development, let's talk about your Real Madrid, your Real Madrid,
Real Madrid. I wish, man. I wish.
your Real Maryland playing days, right?
Oh, Real Maryland.
Yeah.
Jeez.
So I mean, Real Maryland in Maryland at one point was pretty good.
They were big. I think a decent amount of people knew about them.
Yeah.
You know, they had a good amount of clubs going, for sure.
And they also had a PDL team.
Yeah, they
professional
did.
development.
Right,
which
right.
Was, they were kind of okay. They were doing pretty good at one point. I think.
And then they always participate in the Super Y League too, like in the summer. So they would always get good kids to play in their leagues then too.
So one thing I know about the development in Maryland is coming up when I was growing up. All the youth clubs here were like prominent in the nation. They were one of the best, from the Bethesdas, the Potomacs, even Real Maryland, was like Super Y and stuff like that. They were the ones winning all these cups and all these trophies and going down to Disney Cup and showcases and just taking the whole thing by storm.
Right.
What about the development here in Maryland would you say made the team so good? Now, with that being said, I feel like that has dropped off significantly.
Right.
I think coming back into the area and playing again, I realize, and also coaching again, I realize the level isn't the same as it was when we were growing up. I think other states and other regions have kind of taken over that. Like, we're producing top level soccer players. We're doing the most for development, such as like New York, I think, is one of the prominent ones. Jersey, Cali, and Florida. I think those ones are producing a lot. And now Texas, a lot of Texas, which is that feed from the Mexican, from people from Mexico and stuff.
Right.
But these are the states now that I'm seeing that are really, really big, and Maryland is kind of like falling off.
Okay.
So what about the development when you were growing up? Did you like the most? Did you think got you to play, got you to get money to go to Frostburg and stuff like that?
Definitely the players that I had around me on my team and the coaches I had. I told you how I didn't necessarily play for the best club teams, but I was fortunate enough to have run into some very, very good coaches who had played professionally, coaches who, took their coaching very seriously. That's where I think my mentality comes from now, is from those coaches and the players I played against. I'm humble enough to know that I wasn't always the best team. I was the best player on every team that I played. So there were always players that I could look up to, players that would challenge me. At Real Maryland, I'd say it's just the frequency of how much you play. I think, having multiple practices a week, which I think was big back then, really helps the development of a player. Yeah. And then when you have a great coach on top of that, it can only get any better.
Right.
So I can't speak compared to other states. I haven't really seen development in other states yet. I think you're a lot. You've seen that because you're recruiting and you're coaching and playing in different areas. So I think it allows you to kind of see and compare compared to the state. Yeah, but in terms of here in Maryland, I don't know if it's dropping off or not. Like I said, I can't really tell you that. But
for me, I think it's dropping off. You're seeing teams like Bethesda. They're barely making it to championships anymore.
I wasn't aware.
Yeah, dude, it's pretty, and me and the coaching scene too. I'm looking at it and I'm seeing this stuff. You're seeing leagues like back in the day. NCSL was the prominent league to play in Region 1. Scratch all that. They're all falling off. You know what I mean? And one thing that I can say, here's my philosophy on what's going on. I think soccer is a very expensive sport to play.
If you want to play at the highest at the highest level that you can play, 100%.
If you want to play at the highest level, if you want to get proper development, you want to play on like the good teams that you're saying, it's expensive.
Good players.
It's super expensive in the United States, and you find Maryland, Montgomery County. At one point, Montgomery County was like the second richest county in the United States.
Yeah, I believe that.
You know what I mean? Yeah. So of course, that supplemental, that money, that disposable income that the parents have, can also funnel into paying for their kids to go play at Bethesda, and also developing that program to be what it is. You know what I mean? The booster clubs, all these, people that are pouring money into these clubs and academies. That's what makes them so good. That's what gets the best coaches, the best facilities, and hence the best development and teams, right? And also now, so New York has always been good because, again, there's lots of money in New York. Jersey, those are those Wall Street guys who kind of live out there, Cali, Florida. But now all of a sudden you're seeing this change in dynamics in Maryland, and where they're falling off. My theory to why they're falling off, not necessarily because of the money, but I also think it's because people are starting to be aware that, like, I don't need to play at a giant big club, you know what I mean, to be good. So now there's all these little clubs that are popping up, and they're taking away from this bigger club. So now they're seeing, faltering.
I didn't know that.
Yeah,
but that's a good mentality. I actually like that.
Yeah,
I think it's better that people recognize that, because it stops you from the mentality of thinking, if I'm not on this team, how am I going to get to that D1 scholarship? How am I going to get to that next level when I don't believe you do have to play on the best teams? If of course you need to play with teammates to develop at a certain point, but if you're out there touching the ball every day and you're putting your work in and you know what you're doing, there's no reason for you not to be able to reach that next level.
Exactly. And one of the things which I saw in New York, I played in New York for a while for Brooklyn Italians.
Right.
And I went up there and trained with them for a while. I didn't play for them. My boy Yannick, who was on the show before, played for them. And so I got to be up there for months at a time, training with them, going and seeing how the development is. So being with Yannick, watching his coaching.
Right.
New York and Jersey, there's not a lot of space for soccer, right? So you end up putting kids in like smaller arenas, smaller spaces to train in. And Pep Guardiola just had an interview the other day, and he was talking about, and they were asking like, hey, what makes players like really, really good? And he's like, the best players are players that can make quick decisions in a small amount of time.
I agree.
And he's like, okay, well, yeah, that's pretty obvious.
Yeah.
But how do you get to that? And he was like, well, from my experience, the what I've seen to be the most common thing in all the great players, all the good players, is they play in small spaces.
Okay.
Smaller spaces allow you to have shorter time to make decisions, and also smaller space to be, for your accuracy. So you're forced to be super, super accurate and to make really, really quick decisions in a short amount of time.
Shout out futsal.
That develops. Shout out futsal.
Shout out futsal.
Stuff, the Brazilians, all that.
Futsal is what it is.
Good, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So and I think that's something which New York has taken a good hold of.
Okay.
I don't know if they did it by like, that's what we want to do.
Right.
But I think by default they had to go that route.
Okay.
And Jersey, of course. And now I'm starting to see that a little bit in Maryland, and I'm hoping it'll pick up. I'm starting to see smaller facilities like these popping up. Right. And I think these small facilities, I like to call them bodega facilities, right? Or the ones that are going to make those highly technical players.
Right.
Those really, really smart thinkers that can make decisions really, really quick. Now, the question is, how do we get them? How do we get light shown on them? Because all these big clubs, not only are they falling off, but they lack the money to play at these big clubs. You know what I mean? So they're forced to play with smaller clubs where, like you said before, your development was good because the players around you in your club were all good.
Right.
The coaches were all good. But now these players are forced to play for smaller clubs. Even though they're good, they're technically good, their development is good, but these clubs that they're playing for are smaller, so not as good coaching, not as good environment with players and stuff to play in. So my question is, how do you propose we make that better? How would you think?
That's tough.
It's a tough question.
That's tough because that's on a large scale.
Mm-hmm. I feel like you got to start somewhere.
Yeah, I don't even.
So one of the things which I propose in making that better is
let me hear what you got.
Right, I got a bunch of ideas in my head. So one of my things were, first of all, we think about the structure at which these leagues are charging for fees and things like that. I think if we bring those costs down, that automatically puts other teams in their monetary capacity, the space to give out scholarships. You know what I mean? If you're not having to pay $3,000 for a tournament, right, and you bring that down to like, $1,500, you have $1,500 to pay for one kid to have a whole season of soccer. Right. You know what I mean? Or you have $1,500 to pay for a coach to come in and do a couple sessions that might change that kid's life forever. Like you said, it wasn't until when you got to, where are you saying, Real Maryland, right, or Walter Johnson, right, where they're like, whoa, as a winger, when your right back has the ball, you're supposed to be on the touchline. You know what I mean? Just that one little thing might change your game completely. Right. Some of these kids go years and years and years without knowing. Right. So I think you take that away, you have the ability to give a coach $1,500 to come in and say that thing, stuff like that. That's one thing. I think leagues need to lower their fees and costs. Another thing that I think is competition, which is why I like how there's smaller smaller clubs are coming up. If smaller clubs are coming up and they're offering, less fees for players to play, things like that, then those big clubs, guess what? They have no choice but to adjust because everybody's going to be leaving and going to the smaller. It's cheaper.
Right.
You know what I mean? It's cheaper. But not only that, the smaller clubs are starting to win little by little. One of them is, again, not to toot this own horn, but World Class Premier is one of those clubs that you can see growing and winning.
Right.
And they're keeping their costs cheap. And, you're starting to, if believe it or not, you're starting to coach for World Class Premier.
I am. I'm fortunate too.
Yeah. How is that, first of all? And let's see if we can tie that in with my idea of making soccer better here.
I mean, I'm going to answer what you said first about my idea. So my idea actually is, when you start with a small club, you're not exactly reaping the benefits from the beginning, as a coach especially. And especially if you want to go about those low costs that you talked about, you're definitely not reaping the benefits. Yep. So that's where it comes, I believe, like the sacrifice. So if you look at any great program, whether it's collegiate or not, players who come through a system and they are successful, then when they get to that, that level, they look back and they appreciate where they came from. And, if you look at like, colleges and high schools and places where people play for other sports, they'll always, recognize that, and other people recognize it too. It's like, you came from here, this is who made you. True. And so therefore there's attention on you now. And with that attention, of course, will come more money, more players will come your way. If you have successful players that happen to be making a lot of money later on in the future, that's where things like donations come in and charity. And people looking out for you because you looked out for them. And which is, how I believe this world is. You get what you receive. So,
that's true.
If you're really just all about the money, if you're coaching these kids and you're trying to get the most that you can out of them money wise, and then you say, good luck, however else everything goes, you're not really doing a service to them.
That's very true.
At the end of the day, it's really about them. We're talking about how we change, this culture as a whole. And I just believe that's going to take a lot of sacrifice, but going on.
That's really true.
Yeah, you know what I mean. That's just the way I feel. Because
facts.
That's the way I look at anything that's been successful. If you're a program, so you had to have people before that who that program made to make them that good.
So let me ask you this. I noticed, and you played for Walter Johnson too.
Right.
Walter Johnson has a lot of success.
Great
at the
experience.
high school level.
I'm so fortunate.
One of the things that stands out about Walter, every time I think about Walter Johnson, I've Gideon.
Right.
You know what I mean? So that kind of ties into what you're saying. If they have somebody we can, Gideon was one of our players.
Right.
Ends up signing, a big time contract with Arsenal and blah and so forth. And so, then you get a fluctuation of kids who like, I want to go to Walter Johnson. I want to play under this coach. And now he's getting the best players. Is that kind of like what you're talking about there?
Right. So somewhat like that in a way, because there's other players too who have come through Walter Johnson and have done phenomenally well and gone to the next level.
Right.
Jeremy's playing with the Timbers now.
Oh yeah,
and he's killing it. He scored a goal the other day actually.
Right.
They're the type of people, they know where they came from. They know what coach made them who and who they played with to make them who they are. And I'm sure one day or another, or maybe they don't, maybe they do. I can't speak for them exactly, but I'm sure they show appreciation.
That's true.
They show love. I actually saw our high school coach went to Jeremy's game the other day.
Oh yeah.
With a bunch of other with a bunch of friends. It is. You know what I mean? It's a close community. We're all aware of each other's success, and we all just wish that it only gets better.
Yeah.
So that kind of just ties into my point. You make a couple of sacrifices, and at the end of the day, you're looking at something that's way more than any paycheck you could possibly check.
That's true. So hold on on the coaching part, because I want to get to that where we're talking about your future.
Okay.
I kind of like talking about the present, and Walter Johnson, and also you just got done at Frostburg. You really just graduated this summer. I think we were both lucky enough to meet each other there. Met a lot of really good players there too as well. Like Pablo, who's also another guy from Walter Johnson. Ended up being,
he was from Walter Johnson.
Scoring a lot of goals at Frostburg. One of the most prominent players, I think, in that program.
Right.
So how was it playing at Frostburg? So now we're past your development stage. Now you're at the everything you've worked for.
Right.
It's like development is done. Now it's time to produce.
To just work.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So how was it at Frostburg? How was it for you?
It was good. I mean, there were some times where I didn't think when I first got there, as a team, we had the right mentality necessarily.
Yeah.
It's Frostburg. Coming from Walter Johnson, we were so used to winning.
Yeah.
Maybe lost 5-6 games, including playoffs in 3 years. But with Frostburg, we lost a little more, and I could sense it from the beginning, and to me, not winning, makes me mad.
Yeah.
And it's not like a personal or anything. It's just I don't like to lose. I like to
winning
to be good.
It's a mentality. It's a mindset, I think.
Right. It is a mindset. So, coming into Frostburg, I don't think we necessarily had that mindset at first. But especially after you guys left, I think the younger guys, we took it upon ourselves to take a hold of recruiting and to make sure that we were getting players that we wanted here. Put more effort into it, which I think we got to. Especially my junior class, I think was our peak. We had phenomenal players. We were looking real good.
How'd you guys do that year?
We did well, actually. I think we came third or fourth in our conference.
Nice.
But there was this huge problem where we had a player that got 2 red cards at one point in the season. So he accumulated them. So after he got the second red, never sat out 2 games because there was a rule change where you had to sit out 2 games if you sat out 2, if you got 2 red cards.
Yeah.
So our coach wasn't aware of that rule.
That's like a Rafa Benitez mistake.
When the Real Madrid.
Yeah.
Because they took him out, right?
Yeah.
Right after they realized he wasn't supposed to be on. That's hilarious.
So
we didn't
what
even
did
get that opportunity.
You guys, dude?
It cost us playoffs. We didn't go to playoffs.
Really? It wasn't even by forfeited games or
that's what happened.
They were just you guys aren't going to playoffs.
What happened was he was supposed to sit out for 2 games. He sat out for 1, thinking his suspension was over, and then was a part of the next 3 games, I believe. 3 games.
Yeah. And
they were big games. They were all conference games, and we had either won or tied. So I think we had 2 wins and a tie or something like that. All of that wiped off the board.
Forfeit. So that takes
all
you
of them
guys
forfeit.
out of position.
Yeah. So basically, I think it was St. Mary's or somebody who didn't deserve to be there ended up being in the playoffs.
It's the same, but I hear St. Mary's is good now.
I really think they have a great structure. I think they have the good idea. They like to play possession. They like playing the ball. They have really dynamic midfielders. They definitely they were a challenge. I think just getting players that are at the next level will take them to that CNU. Which is where I think is the
epitome of
that's what you're looking up to.
Division 3, essentially.
You know what I mean? Their CNU was easily the best team I played.
Yeah.
While playing at Frostburg.
Trust me.
Those guys were great. I give respect where respect is due. Yeah. Even though I always wanted to beat them. Yeah, wasn't a fan. But Frostburg, I learned a lot. I learned how you work with adversity. I learned, how you got to keep yourself in check when it's more about the team and not necessarily yourself, and maybe not everybody else understands that. You have to be a leader. That's the way I felt sometimes. Then there were some people who just would be so frustrated with how things were going and how things were being played out. Sometimes, didn't really take the time to understand, it's a collective thing. It's with all of us, and we're all going through this together. And, if we stay strong together, we can always get to that conference title, which, was basically our goal.
Right.
I think we made it very evident during the time that we were there. Anybody that was there, we're here because we're trying to win a conference championship. Unfortunately, we didn't get to do that. But I think we made tremendous efforts. I feel like I gave everything I got personally. I don't think there was a whole lot more I could have really done to get us to our goal. But it's good, man. My brother just transferred there, so
he just transferred.
Yeah, so I'm still keeping up.
I remember
Frostburg's gonna be my life for a couple more years.
And he's playing, right?
He's playing.
I remember he was good when you were there. When I was there, we were talking about him. He was still kind of in high school and still coming into himself, but he's balling.
He's playing for DC at the time, for their academy team.
So now he's at KB's doing something over there.
Yeah, I mean, he transferred a couple of times. He started off playing D1, he started off playing JUCO and then went D2. And then from there he came to Frostburg. Yeah,
and
so
Frostburg's also, I was with the coach yesterday at my game, and he was recruiting some of the guys, and Frostburg is going to Division 2. I don't know if you've heard.
Yeah, I heard about that. It's crazy. That's crazy.
Yeah,
I can't even imagine what that would be like, because all I know is the CAC.
Yeah, and that's a really competitive I think people underestimate that CAC Division III, because in that conference alone, you have teams that I think could compete with D1 schools.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? With the top half of D1 schools, at least the middle half pack of D1 schools that can easily compete, easily beat. You know, when you talk about teams like Salisbury, Christopher Newport, York, Frostburg, those 4 teams alone, I think could, you know, compete at a high level. So that conference, yes, it stands out, and it's definitely going to be missed.
Yeah, I mean, if they're at competition that keeps them at that same level, you know what I mean, I'm all for it. You know, it's I'm sure it's going to be exciting moving to a different league, and I'm sure it's not based entirely around soccer.
Yeah,
their football program's doing really well now.
Yeah, I heard football.
So I'm sure they play a large part in that. But hey, who knows? But you know, I think, when did they say they're going to start? Like 2019, 2018? I'm not sure.
I think next year. He was saying
2019.
Yeah, it'll be 19.
Oh, okay. Yeah, no, I'm looking forward to it. I'll definitely be out there looking.
So my last thing with the Frostburg and that part of your life, and you know, I can tell you how it was for me looking at it in hindsight when I graduated. If you could go back to your development, you know what I mean, and seeing what you ended up with at Frostburg, what you could have been even playing for like a top Division I school, even professionally. Because I know those opportunities came your way. You know, what do you think would be your biggest change that you would have made in your development? And why?
In my development, man, I wouldn't even know where to start. Honestly,
there are a lot.
I think I did a couple things that, you know, I did well. You know, I always did challenge myself. I was always out there playing, always out there getting touches, always out there, you know, making sure I'm trying to get better.
Right.
In terms of my development, I would say for sure, I think maybe if I wanted to maybe, you know, take it farther than I have now, I think I wouldn't have gone straight to Frostburg. I think I had a lot more drive in me. I think I was ready for something big, honestly, after high school. You know, especially because I finished off with a great season, and you know, I told my parents I'm not going anywhere unless I play.
Right.
So you know, Frostburg's really it gave me an opportunity. But you know, if I'd really known what I could do, so maybe even like play JUCO for a year or two, and then transfer out, which is you're seeing more of
a
now.
Lot of people,
and I respect that, because then people are going away from the ideology of, oh, I have to go right into a 4-year school as soon as I graduate. You know, it's not, JUCO's not necessarily looked down upon, or transferring is not looked down upon, which is a great thing.
I mean, yeah, like I said, yesterday you had UMBC is at our games scouting players, Maryland was at our games scouting players. That's great. Penn State was there, so it's definitely a vehicle that not a lot of people take note of. Right, but it's very, very effective.
Right, so I definitely wish maybe I would have taken a step back. Even if you take off a year, you know, it's really not that bad. And then, you know, I think maybe I could have played at a higher level past that, but that'd probably be the biggest thing I changed, because you know, everything up to that. I think I did everything I could on my part, right? You know, with the training and trying to be on a team and basically doing what I could, right? But aside from that, if it just be like at the point where I can pick and choose where I want to go, and not necessarily like I can afford this and I live in this district, so I play with this high school. Right. It's more like, where's my best decision? And I think maybe that would have been JUCO for me. Right. Yeah, maybe for a year or two, but who knows? It is. So the
takeaway from that is, for young players that are looking to go to school and stuff, don't rush into a school.
Yeah, don't rush
into it. Really think it through. Really weigh out the options, because there are a various amount of ways to get to that level that you want to, without just jumping into a. You know, I got to go to a school. I got to sign.
A lot of people, you know, we're in that social media phase where people just like saying, you know, I've committed here.
I committed here. Signing day.
I'm doing this. You know what I mean? And I can see how that's a big deal for students, because I remember how good it felt when I was that age and I was being told, this school wants to play for you, this school wants to play for you. So I understand that feeling, I embrace it too. But then it's like, what about 5 years from now, 4 years from now? Is this program going to take me to the level I want? Do I want to be in this program to get me to that next level? And kind of really knowing where you're going before you get there. Because, you know, if you kind of just throw yourself in a situation and wonder, you know, I'm just hoping for the best, you might not necessarily get the best. Yeah. And there could have been a better option out there for you. Right. But that's probably the biggest thing I would say to young players. You know, take your time where you go. You know, you can always evaluate a program without having to be a part of it. You know,
I think bigger than that is having the goal, the bigger plan. This is where I want to be.
Right.
So then you can help. Weighing out your options will be easier.
Exactly.
Than, you know, pointing the right path will be easier. Than,
right. Rather than just rushing the situation, just, you know, for the short time.
Right. And everybody else is committing somewhere.
Like,
I got to do something.
Everyone's like, oh my God, that's crazy. He's playing D1, but it's like, are you playing?
Right.
It's, you know, which is essentially what everybody wants.
You got to play.
You can be sitting on a bench and understand that, you know, you're not as good as somebody else, but you want to get to that starting position eventually. Mm-hmm. So that should always, you know, motivate you. So if you can recognize that, I think that's big for young players.
Yeah, I agree. So like you just mentioned, where are you going to be at 5 years from now when you're in high school making this decision? So here you are 5 years from when you graduate.
Yeah.
So let's talk about your future. Let's talk about what's next for you. You know, your soccer is actually playing,
right,
you know, collegiately at least, is, you know, in the past now. Now you're looking to the future. So what things are you doing with soccer nowadays?
I still haven't given up on playing futsal. Mm-hmm. It's not necessarily I'm giving up on playing 11v11 either on the field, but I love futsal, and I think that, you know, if I commit myself to that, I can really get the best out of myself.
What's up with Ryan? Isn't Ryan Russell playing for? Who's another old teammate of ours at Frostburg? Anyway, he's playing for isn't the U.S. national futsal team?
I don't know about that. I know he's definitely playing with Sporting Maryland.
Yeah, and they're winning things.
Yeah, they're winning things, and I have I played on BNC.
Oh,
and we were great.
Nice.
We were great. I played with some great players at BNC, and I think they got like Jason Mayorga and Andres and Alex. Alex, who just finished playing at UMBC.
Yeah.
So they got a couple players playing over there too. So I'm hoping I get into that, not necessarily that team, but, you know, I'm kind of swamped right now with what I got going on, but I'm definitely looking, you know, in the next 6 to 8 months, think about, you know, training seriously again and trying to get on a futsal team and challenge myself again, because I miss it, you know. I definitely could see, you know, I still got so much drive in me. You know, I can feel it just when I play pickup.
Yeah.
You know,
World Class Premier also has a men's team. Well, they're right now they're competing in the U.S. Open Cup, actually.
Oh, no way.
And they have some top players on that. So, you know, they got Levy. I don't know if you heard about Levy. He used to play for Philadelphia. He was one of the first ones in this area to really get signed to a pro team, the MLS. I think he got signed to MLS about 4 or 5 years ago.
Okay.
You know, Daniel Ankra played at Loyola, top baller. Patrick Pato just got done playing at UMBC
yeah, I've heard
too.
Him. Yeah.
You know, he's on there. I mean, they have players upon
Okay,
players.
I didn't know that.
It's a really good team. They're winning. I mean, I don't remember last time they've lost a game, so they're really competing and trying to get a professional team out of this men's team. So I think maybe
why not? Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I will. But, you know, with coaching, you know, especially starting with World Class Premier, I'm hoping this is the start of something big for me. Meaning, you know, I recognize what I feel like I can give back. I've always been big on watching soccer, breaking down, you know, training. And, you know, that just sounds exactly what a coach, you know, is all about. And you know, and I can feel it now as I'm coaching, you know, these U15 kids that I have. Yeah. You know, I can feel my energy level and how, like, talking about how something will make you better or doing this is going to help you out this way. I get excited, and, you know, especially when you see a player starting to understand that and getting better and listening to you and doing it. It's a very rewarding feeling. And so, you know, ultimately the top, I can't say I've reached a goal coaching wise, you know, where what I'm looking forward to in, you know, 5-10 years from now, what I want to aspire to be. Cause I'm just kind of getting started. I'm getting my feet wet. Right. But, you know, I'm definitely gonna come up with some goals soon. It's something that I plan on doing for a while, you know, way after I can play. So hopefully, you know, Koku's been a great mentor so far. Yeah. Really appreciate him giving me this opportunity. So I just want to take advantage of it. Yeah. Definitely plan on taking as much as I can. Even you know what I mean? You have a lot more of experience of a coach than I've got. So, you know, you're also somebody that I'm looking up to as well.
We're just here to help you out.
I appreciate that. So, you know, I'm just trying to soak in as much as I can. Definitely want to start taking some licenses soon, making things more official. But that's what I'm looking forward to.
That's awesome, and I'm glad you're taking this path, because also on my list for things to change the culture here to make this better. You know, we're talking about that big change, that thing that seems so huge,
right?
But I think those small steps that could change it is one, getting more coaches, getting more players that get done playing to come and coach and share their knowledge of the game. Remember, it just takes that one guy to tell you, hey man, when the right back has the ball, you need to be here instead of here. That changes how you see the whole game,
right?
Which could turn you from a 2-goal a game season, or 2-goal a season player, to maybe like a 10-15 goal a season player. Getting more coaches to come out and play. Like, I can tell you the amount of guys that I've seen that are tremendous players, have so much knowledge about the game, so much ability, so much things to give, but then they get done playing and they don't realize that this is actually a viable option, something that you can one, sustain a living from, but two, have a huge impact on the community, and also serves a purpose. A lot of people think coaching is not that, one, I probably can't make a living off of it, which might be true to a certain extent, but I'm seeing it pick up over the last 5 years. Coaching is starting to be one of the big things, especially in this area. And I also feel like a lot of people think the status involved in being a coach, because you really got to start from the bottom, especially here. You got to start from the bottom and work your way up to the college ranks or whatever. But I think the more people that we have, that when you get done playing in college, you can come back and show the younger kids, yo, man, these are the things I did that were good. These are the things that if I did more of or less of, I would have been here. You know what I mean? And I think those little things make a huge difference. So if there was any way that we can have some kind of an opportunity to let people know that, guys, just because you're done playing in college doesn't mean your impact on the soccer community isn't done. You know what I mean? I think that'll serve a huge purpose in changing the culture here. So that's one of the things which I like to do. I would love to do on this podcast is broadcast it out here. Guys, there's so much more that we can do in making the USA, Maryland, whatever it may be, but this nation good at soccer. You know what I mean? Because we're all like you're an immigrant or son of an immigrant from Eritrea, where technical soccer is highly rated. Like I told you, I'm from Cameroon, where soccer is really, really big, and I come over here with all this knowledge, all those little things. All these guys that I'm telling you about, Koku, Levy, they're all from different parts of the world, and we're that generation where we come and we played here. Our parents didn't really know what it took to become a pro here. They're more like, go to school, So we kind of had to be two different people and not really
dude, that was a great way to say that.
But now our generation now can flip that. Now we're the ones having kids. Now we're the ones that can influence these kids. Now we're the ones that can tell the kids, you can still get your education, you can still do this, but if you want to get here, this is exactly the steps you need to go to. So I think that's one of my biggest things that that we could do as a community, is try to give back to the younger ones when we get done, in
for
knowledge.
Sure. And the thing that comes with that is, as much as we want people who have played to coach, we want good coaches. If everybody who wanted to coach just coached, there's no chance. There's not as high of a chance of them being successful coaches. So I think, if anything, I think there's some coaches who need to be more vetted more properly. Especially those kids at a younger age. If you look at a lot of them when they play for these teams, sometimes they'll be parents running teams. Because they're in a league, but they don't have. They don't have a coach. So the parents are out there, and all they're telling them to do is, kick the ball, score the goal, and everything in the middle is missing.
Or players that think scoring goals, or coaches that think goals, winning is the right thing at a young age, which I think it's not. I think development.
It's not, because
it's a good thing.
Because you're going to get older, and then you're not going to win as much, and
you know what I mean.
And you missed out on what you were supposed to be doing when you thought you were scoring all those goals.
Or even something as simple as a lot of teams don't teach building out the back. There's just kick it to the fast guy up top, because essentially when everybody's young, and you got that one kid with a big leg that can kick it to a fast guy up top. You're going to win games. You're going to score goals, but what's that doing for the development?
Exactly.
And I remember one time when we were playing at Frostburg, KB telling us, skip the midfield, just get to the forwards. You know what I mean? Wait, I'm no coach, but I don't think you should be doing it. You know what I mean? But hey, it is what it is.
Man, that was the stuff that used to kill me. You see the ball go, I'm not running.
No shade to KB, phenomenal coach. I learned a lot from KB, learned a lot from the program.
Mad love for KB.
But you know what I mean? Let's be real. There's certain things. Everywhere you go, you're gonna have the things you don't really agree with.
Right.
But that to me just didn't make any sense.
Yeah.
You know. But so one thing. So let's tie this all up. You know, if you can have one big point overall in this conversation with Have that you want the listeners to go away with, what do you think it'll be? Or two. Or two.
I mean, yeah, I think soccer in this area is big.
Yeah.
You know, and not just if you're a player listening to this, but you know, if you're a parent as well. I think, you know, soccer taught me a lot more than just soccer. You know, it taught me about adversity. You know, it taught me discipline. You know, you don't show up late to practice. You know, you don't complain when the coach tells you to get on the line.
Yeah.
You know, especially, you know, it's a team sport, so it's not necessarily about yourself. I feel like those are aspects that I've carried on into my life, into my work life. You know, if you have, you know, a job, if you've committed to something, you know, you make sure you're committed. And so, you know, the biggest thing I would say is, if people in this area, you know, soccer, I'm basically saying go play soccer.
Go play soccer.
Go play soccer. Like,
say no more.
Like, footy is big. You know, I know like lacrosse isn't also like an up and coming like thing. But you know, especially with like football and people talking about all those concussions and CT and all that, you know, like soccer's where to be at.
Right.
Especially at a younger age, you know. So I'll definitely preach playing. For those who are already playing, you know, make sure you're training, make sure you touch it. And I can tell you 100% you don't reach the next level without touching the ball every day, without challenging yourself. So, you know, be humble, know where you're at, be honest with yourself. I think that's one of the biggest things some people struggle at in this sport. Really? Sometimes people just don't recognize, you know, what level they're at. Where am I at in comparison to everybody else around me? And how do I, you know, either get better or maintain where I'm at? So, you know, a couple of those points that I just said, keep those in mind. But hey, I mean, Montgomery Soccer always been on top.
Yeah,
we got some ballers here.
Yeah, dude.
Ballers.
And I want to make sure we maintain it, man. I want to make sure we keep going.
Right?
You know, so.
Like, there's nothing greater than playing good ball. Like when if you know what I'm talking about, you know what I'm talking about. Like you play pickup and it's just ball. Like there's none of that stuff, ball flying everywhere and people shooting at the goal from the other side. You know what I mean? It's like small-sided, 4v4, 5v5, 6v6. We play hard. Yeah. We don't stop. You know, because you know, even still, I got people that I'm playing with back from high school that we play pickup every once in a while, and we'll place bets. You know, it'll be like small sided game, 4v4, 5v5, 6v6, whatever our numbers are. You know, you choose another person on the team, you make a bet for a burrito.
Yeah.
And then you play. Hey, man, you know what's crazy? You'll be surprised how hard some guys will play.
No. I was about to tell you,
burrito on the line.
Call me out for one of those pickup games. I'm up for a bet, man. I'm ready to play some competitive ball.
It's challenging. Yeah. You know, challenging yourself and playing every day. So I'm big on that.
Okay. So hey, Nabayee, I really appreciate you coming on.
It was great to be here,
bro. And I'm glad we got to talk soccer again like we used to do.
For sure.
On the couch back at 154.
I know.
You know, my big takeaway from this episode is, you know, always have an end goal and make decisions according to where you want to get to in that end goal. And along the way, you know, be humble, but also enjoy where you're at.
Right.
And the biggest things is once you get to where you're at, realize that there's always things you can give back, especially when we're talking about soccer. There's always stuff. So come back and give back to those little kids, to people that are growing up here that want to get to where you're going or even further. And I think with that mindset, little by surely, they say, you know, a journey of 1,000 miles begins with one step. That one little move that you do could change the whole history or future of soccer here in this country. You know, so everybody, thank you guys for listening. Check out this episode. Check out Nabayee on his IG. Check him out in his soccer games. I think he's going to be a phenomenal coach, as he was a phenomenal player when I first met him at Frostburg, and I think he's going to continue to do dope things in soccer and
thank you.
In this community. So, you know, check him out, and thank you guys for listening.